Good morning, everybody. This is Jim Exby with Compliance Professionals. Today we're going to talk about ladders. I've got a few to show you here right off the bat, so everybody will be familiar with them. First one, an extension ladder. Everybody's seen these, but it's important that you know what they look like. Typical extension ladder with a rope through it, so you can pull up another side of it, make it higher. This one is a step ladder, A-frame type ladder. By the way, don't ever stand on the top rung of that ladder, okay? Step ladder. And here's what a lot of the construction sites require that you have and use now. This is a podium ladder. These are very good. I've got one of these at home. It gives you a place to stand on and do a little bit of work. Appears to be a lot more safe. I know I feel a lot safer when I'm standing on one of these, right? That way you're not on the top two rungs of it. Thing gets wobbly. Much safer. Those are good ladders. All of them are good ladders. So I want to talk about ladder safety today. I'm going to start off talking about a step ladder. A step ladder is a portable, self-supporting A-frame ladder. It's got two front side rails and two rear side rails. And generally, there are steps that are mounted between the front side rails and bracing between the rear side rails. Just to give you a little bit of nomenclature here, you've got your top cap. It goes across the top. That's the one you should never stand on. All that really does is hold everything stable. You've got your top step. I wouldn't stand there either. Maybe the next one down. You've got front side rails. You can grasp a hold of those, and it's a better way to hold on to a ladder than grabbing a hold of rungs like this. Grab those side rails, especially when you're going to use a step ladder. Then there's the steps themselves that you go up. Down at the bottom, you're going to have some anti-slip shoes or feet that hold it steady. And then you've got your rear side rails on the A-frame, and you got spreaders that connect those together. So your rear side rails with spreaders. Probably the most important thing you can do right off the bat is to stand there and visually inspect the ladder. I think you should do it every time. I know, a little bit of overkill, right? Well, that way you're going to make sure it's safe. Inspect that ladder. Make sure that everything is working on this ladder. You know, the spreaders, make sure that they're working, that they're tight, they're holding things in place. The steps that you put your feet on, they shouldn't have anything slippery on them, you know, that might cause you to slip. Just make sure that ladder is working well. Shouldn't have any paint or stickers except for the warning labels that might hide possible defects on it. You should use a ladder that can sustain at least 4 times the maximum intended load. Now, where do you find all this information? There's a sticker on the side of the ladder. You can go to that, you can look at it, right? Follow the manufacturer's instructions and labels on the ladder. To determine the correct ladder, consider your weight plus the weight of your load. And do not exceed the load rating, and always include the weight of all the tools, the materials, and the equipment. So I'm going to give you a little bit of some of the ratings on these ladders. A number 3 rated ladder is considered to be light duty, and normally they'll hold approximately 200 pounds. A number 2 is a medium duty rated ladder, and you can get those and they'll hold about 225 pounds. A number 1 is a heavy duty ladder. It's for industrial purposes. It'll hold 250 pounds. You can get an extra heavy duty, that's a 1A ladder. It's industrial in nature and it holds 300 pounds. And then if you go to the best one, that's a 1AA ladder. And it's special duty, it's rugged use, and it'll hold 375 pounds. That's a lot of weight up in the air. So if you do get that much up in the air, you better be very careful how you're moving things around. Here's some common step ladder hazards I'd like to go over with you. Number one, don't ever use a damaged step ladder. That would be foolish. Number two, ladders on slippery or unstable surfaces. Don't use a ladder, for instance, on ice. A step ladder that can shift and move and slide. Do not use unlocked ladder spreaders. They have to be able to lock. Do not stand on the top step, or it's commonly called the toe cap. That's what holds a step ladder together up at the top. Do not stand on that. That ladder is going to start getting very wobbly, and before you know it, you'll be down on the ground. Do not use a loading ladder beyond the rated load. Do not use ladders in high traffic locations. Do not use a ladder reaching outside the side rails. In other words, you're working on the ladder, and let's say you're doing some work a couple of feet over here. Your body should not move beyond the side rails. And when you put your arm out, it's so common for people to say, well, I've got just a little bit more, so I'll just lean off camera here a little bit. Oh, and all of a sudden, bang, down you go, right? Listen, I know that happens to people because I've seen it happen. I have a very good friend who died on a ladder leaning out too far. And do not use a ladder in close proximity to electrical wiring or other types of equipment. So here's some good do's. Read and follow the manufacturer's instructions on the side of the ladder. It's not often that people do that, but it's a smart thing to do. Take a look at the instructions just so you're familiar with it. Maintain 3 points of contact always on the ladder. It can be 2 feet and 1 hand, 2 hands and 1 foot. Those are your 3 points. I like to try and maintain myself when I'm going up and down the ladder by holding onto the side rails. And I'll tell you why that is. When I was very young, I was going up a ladder the typical way, and I got pretty comfortable with it, and I would scurry up and down it, go real fast. And one day I reached out for the rung, and I got too comfortable with it. I reached out for the rung and I missed it. And I started to fall backwards, and I had to grab a hold very quickly to stabilize myself. That's when I started grabbing a hold of the sides and sliding my hands up. I always had contact with the ladder as I was moving up. Stay near the middle of the ladder and face the ladder when you're coming down. Use barricades to keep traffic away from the ladder down at the base. Keep ladders free of any slippery type of materials, and only put ladders on a stable and level surfaces. I know I said that before. Don't put them on things that are slippery. Do not use ladders for purposes other than what they're supposed to be designed for. For example, do not use a folded step ladder as a single ladder. It's supposed to spread apart. You're not supposed to lean it up. Those things have got steps that are angled. You'll be at the wrong angle. Do not use the top step or cap as a step. I've gone over that. Place a ladder. Never place ladders on boxes, barrels, or other unstable bases. Do not move or shift a ladder with the person or equipment on the ladder. That's quite common. People get on a ladder, they'll hold on to it, and then they want to move this way just a little bit. So what do? They jump the ladder over a little bit. Don't ever do that. You could really hurt yourself. Do not paint a ladder with opaque coatings. Don't ever leave your tools or materials or equipment on step ladders. And if you can, always try and use a tool belt. Put it around you, put your tools in your tool belt, or maybe put some tools in your pockets. When you're going up the ladder, don't have your hands full of, screwdrivers and wrenches and things of that nature. Put them in your pockets. And never use a metal ladder near power lines or electrical equipment. I want to run over a little bit about extension ladders. We see these quite a bit. Here's your extension ladder one more time, right here. This is what it looks like. Get it up a little closer for you to look at. So extension ladders have at least 2 sections, sometimes more. And they operate in guides and in brackets. And there is a rope on them that you can pull. There's the rope in the middle. You pull on that rope and it brings the other section straight up in the air. And then down below there's locks. They look a little bit like these things right here. And you've heard them clack, clack, clack as you pull that up. They're going to lock and hold the upper piece in place. Please remember that extension ladders are not self-supporting. They're going to require a stable structure that can withstand the intended load. A competent person should visually inspect that ladder, and extension ladders have a tendency to loosen up on people, or some of the brackets that are on them. After a while will get loose. You need to keep an eye on all of that. Sometimes you'll see things that'll fall off, extension ladders, and people still continue to use them. A lot of the bolts and brackets fall off. If you do find any extension ladder that should not be used, it's missing rungs, bolts, cleats, screws. If it has any type of loose components, set it to the side, put a sign on it that says do not use, or words to that effect. Let's make sure nobody else uses it. If your access is obstructed, secure the top of the ladder to a rigid support. That's one of the rules. What that means is if you've got a ladder and it's leaning up, let's say against a building, and you want to climb up onto the roof, that ladder has to extend 3 feet above the surface of the roof. And many times, if the surface you're placing the ladder on, if you have any question about that, you should secure the top of that ladder, and many times the base of the ladder also. Set the ladder at the proper angle. So how do you figure that out? You know, is it too close to the wall? Is it too far away? Well, here's a rule. When a ladder is leaned up against the wall, the bottom of the ladder should be 1/4 of the ladder's working length away from the wall. So if it's a 20-foot ladder, you should have it 5 feet away. 1/4 of 20. That'll work every time. It's just about the right angle that you should be at. A lot of guys put their toes right at the base of the ladder and then they reach out. And if they can touch the ladder, that's approximately the right distance also, if you don't have something to measure with. Before starting work, survey the area for potential hazards. Take a look around. Do you have any power lines around you? That can always be dangerous. And ladders, they should have non-conductive slide rails at all times. Set the base of the ladder so that the bottom sits securely and so both side rails are evenly supported. The ladder rail should be square to the structure against which it's leaning, with both foot pads placed securely on a stable and level surface. Many times I see guys go up ladders and it's kind of crooked. They say, well, it'll be okay. I'll be all right. Well, maybe not. You might fall. When using the ladder in a high activity area, secure it to prevent movement and use a barrier to redirect workers and equipment around it. If the ladder's placed in front of a door, you should block off that door. We don't want anybody getting hurt. So here's some do's in regard to extension ladders. Face the ladder when climbing up or descending. Keep the body inside the side rails of the ladder. Use extra care when getting on or off the ladder at the top or the bottom. Avoid tipping the ladder over sideways or causing the ladder base to slide out. Put all your tools, as I said before, in the tool belt. Extend 3 feet above. That's an OSHA rule. And then keep your ladders free of any slippery kind of materials. A few don'ts. Don't use a ladder on soft ground. Don't extend the ladder's maximum load rating. Don't tie 2 ladders together. Don't ever do that to make them longer. Don't ignore nearby overhead power lines. Don't move or shift a ladder with a person or equipment on the ladder, and don't ever lean out beyond the ladder's side rails. Those are a few do's and don'ts of ladder safety. Now we're going to go on to the quiz. First question, these are all true or false. Ladder safety is in the top 10 serious violations for fiscal year 2019. That is true. As a matter of fact, it's number 4. So OSHA takes it very seriously. And if they're on a job site and if they see a ladder, they're going to take a look at that ladder as they walk by. OSHA published an update in 2016 for ladder safety. That's true, and it is extensive. It was absolutely huge. They placed it in the working walking surfaces area, and if you take a look at it, it's about that thick and little tiny print. Number 3, employees must maintain 4 points of contact on a ladder at all times. Well, that's wrong. How would you ever move? It's 3 points of contact at all times. Rungs and steps must be slip resistant. True. And number 5, an extension ladder must extend at least 3 feet above the elevated working surface. True. True at all times. Thanks, everybody. Please be careful when you get up in ladders. Think about it just for a while. Use the 5-second rule. Is that ladder safe? Is everything okay? Is it stable? We never want anybody falling off a ladder and getting hurt. Thanks, everybody. Sure appreciate it.